Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this January 3rd, our first show of the year. I'll try to be here more regularly. Get that word out, Greg. And see if what we can get accomplished this year, 2019. Can you believe it? Yes, I can. It's 2019. We're back for another year. And it seems like the world's getting worse. The world's getting always worse. It's like hell in a handbasket all the time. And every year at this time I read the same thing. In fact, the world is going to go crazy in 2019. And I read a whole big thing on that just before the show about all the catastrophes, all the things that are going to happen. And guess what? That was written in 2018 and we're still here. That was for 2018 and we're still here. So every year we get that. Oh, there's going to be things that are going to happen. And I believe at the end of this year, we'll still be sitting here talking about the same thing. And the same thing really is that nothing ever changes. It just moves on. The New World Order rolls on. And people go into three different camps. They go into the alternative news camp, and they let Alex Jones lead them down the primrose path of knowing who are the main controllers of the New World Order, according to Alex Jones. Then you're going to go to America First people and Donald Trump. And they know everything about what's happening in the world. And then you go to the Democrats who have not turned into socialists, and they're going to tell you that open borders are the way to go. And now we're in the midst of, we got to talk about this before we get rolling here. Well, let me tell you the two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about fake news robots. And that's one word I do not want to use in 2019. After today, I'm not using it. I am so tired of hearing that fake news. I mean, we never heard about it. I've been a journalist since, in the 70s, and I never heard of fake news. There was news that was not true, false, people are misleading you, but this whole idea of fake news, there's a point to it, but I'm tired of using that word. Because everything is fake, right? We live in, just watch, what two movies should you watch? The Matrix is one, and then watch remember the one with Jim Carrey, The Truman Show? That'll give you an idea. Everything is fake, right? And we live in this kind of world. The world's really what you believe it is. And if you believe that it's true when you go to Disneyland, or if you believe in Santa Claus, then it's true. If you believe in Christ, then it's true. If you don't believe in Christ, it's not true. So we're going to talk about fake news robots, and then also about a prophecy that was given by a 90-year-old woman from Norway about 40-some years ago. I think it's BS. But this is the stuff we have to put up with every year. And really, even if we did get to the bottom of what was going on, what are you going to do about it? Well, you can say, I told you so, and see, I know, not them. But here's the real deal. You really want to basically take in everything that you read, see, hear, and try to figure out what is going on in the world. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, is it going to change if you know what's going on in China? No. Really, what you want is a better life at home, all right? Well, today, I am not at home, right? I am not in America, my home that I was born in. And I'm actually today in Mexico. Yes, I'm in a little bit outside of Tijuana. And the reason I wanted to do that is I wanted to check out the border for myself. What's going on in Mexico? That's all we hear on the news, is that all these thousands of people are going to crush the border, and America needs to put up a wall. And the wall will help, they say. And I say, wall or no wall, people that want to try to sneak in here to America are going to do it. Well, they don't have to do it in San Diego. They can go to Texas. They can go to New Mexico. I can tell them a place in Palomas, New Mexico. Well, that's the town in Mexico. But you can get through that area pretty simple, and that's in New Mexico. So people don't have to come to San Diego and sit in Tijuana to get into the United States. You're not going to get in anyway if you say asylum and you're just here because you want to make more money. I want to make more money. So, am I persecuted in America? Where should I go? Maybe I should go to New Zealand. And I should go to the New Zealand border and say, I want asylum in New Zealand because I want to make more money. And I can't make any money in America anymore. I want to make money in New Zealand. And so I want asylum. So should I be able to get into New Zealand? No. They're not going to let me in. What's the best way to get into New Zealand? Just stay there. Just go take a trip, overstay your visa, find a job, and forget about it. Don't worry about the government. And so if I was telling somebody in Mexico what to do, I would say this. Don't pay these people a lot of money. See, now I'm getting a call from the authorities saying I'm giving them illegal information. But anyway, if I was going to advise anybody to come into America from Mexico, whether you're from Honduras or Panama or wherever, I'd say find a good illegal way to do it. Don't pay these coyotes. Know that it's going to be dangerous, and I would recommend going to the areas where there's no people. And don't go to Texas because there's a lot of people that'll shoot you there. So, how are you going to get in? That's up to you. Now, if you get in, you can probably find yourself a job. You can probably work in a restaurant. I remember I used to own a restaurant. I didn't hire any illegal employees because I couldn't afford it. I had to do the dishes myself. So when they say people in America don't do dishes, that's not true. Because I actually did my own dishes and cleaned my own floors because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And if I did, I could care less if it was somebody illegal or legal. I just wanted my floors clean. So, that is my advice to you people. Now, I'm outside of Tijuana right now. And let me tell you this. It's not a bad place. Why go to America? You can do just the same here. It's cheaper. It's just as cold here as it is in San Diego today. And let me tell you, it's just as safe or dangerous, however you want to look at it. I don't see any difference. And I always say when you cross the border, and you get into Tijuana, you're going to find some really nice places. And I checked a few out. You can go to a place called Zona Rio. That's pretty nice. And there's a whole bunch of other places. I didn't realize it until I started taking a few trips across the border. Now, I've noticed in my trips across the border lately that there aren't as many American people here. They're afraid to come across because they hear all these rumors that it's very dangerous. Well, it isn't that dangerous. In fact, when you come into Mexico, you just drive right in. Nobody stops you. You just go right in and you drive your merry way. Drive, and it's a nice little road that's right on the ocean. Very beautiful. So you have really no problem. So my story today is from my first-hand knowledge of what it's like here, living very close to Mexico with all this garbage going on in the government. And that's all it really is. Now, what do they really want to do? Well, they want to use as many people from these countries like Honduras and other places that have been decimated by the Vatican and by our own CIA and our government policies that create chaos there. So the people don't have any money to work, and they want to drive them into America to get rid of the middle class so they can create a socialist country there. And they're going to do it. Now look what happened in Europe when Merkel in Germany decided to let 1 million people just cross the border without any kind of checking, without anything. And guess what's happening in Germany? It's a mess. And the reason it's a mess is because they tell people, it's better in Germany than it is in your country, but that's not the reason they want you there. They want you to destabilize the country so that in the end, they can come wearing their white hats saying, we'll protect you now. We will make it a safe place. And so all these countries, like Sweden, Norway, Italy, are experiencing an overabundance of people just flooding into their countries. And what happens? Chaos. People automatically dislike these people. It's the same thing that happened here in Tijuana. 3,000 or 4,000, 5,000 people move in. They start creating some problems in the city, and pretty soon the people who live in Tijuana don't like the people from Honduras. Then they start fighting. That's exactly what they want. Now, some of the people in Honduras that are here realize they're not going to get into America, and there's been an agreement with Mexico right now for the Mexican government to hold these migrants here in Tijuana. Now they got an indoor place for them. Hold these people until they can get their hearing with the courts in America. Now, what's going to happen with that? We know that the system is overburdened, and if a person, let's say, goes to the border and states, I want asylum, the person there will do the paperwork, and they will give you a court. They will say, okay, now you're going to have to wait for your court date. Now, the court date may be 2 years away. So what are they going to do? Sit in Tijuana for 2 years? They can't get into the States anymore unless they sneak in. And I think what will happen is many will go home. Or they'll just start flooding the border more and more and more until, there's a big, huge conflict. And that's exactly what they want. Now, as far as trusting anybody in Washington, or trusting anybody in a church in the Vatican, if you want to talk about them, don't do it. Because you're not going to get the true story. You're going to get a whitewashed story of really what's going on. And so I recommend to you, don't believe a word that comes out of Trump's mouth. Don't believe a word that comes out of Nancy Pelosi or any other people in Washington. Lindsey Graham, the rest of these guys. And I'll leave the news broadcasters for the second part of the show. And we'll talk for the last time about fake news robots. I don't want to use the word fake news on this show anymore this year at all. But I do have to talk about this prophecy. Because this is the kind of garbage you get when you pick up, you start looking around for some events that are going on in the world. And I recommend the internet is turned into a place where all it's going to do is confuse you. So, if you want to find out something specific, like, what is the, square root of 97 or something like that, that's fine. You can get information at the top of, right off in 2 seconds. But if you want to, think about the state of the world, if you want to talk about, ideas, this is not the place to do it anymore, because there's so much bullshit that you're listening to that you can't get a grasp of anything. And this is an example. Now, somebody will believe this. Other people will say, oh, I love these prophecies. They always come out after the fact. After we know all this is going on, then they say this woman 40-some years ago said this. Okay? Now, how many times have you heard that from the Vatican when they talk about the 3 letters and the 3, remember, from Fatima and all that stuff? You don't think they wrote that out? And you're going to believe that? All right. Then, if you believe that Mother Mary comes down and sits in a tree and talks to these, they're always coming down, they always talk to these little, the people living out in the middle of nowhere. Why don't they come to Times Square? And why doesn't she sit up on one of those buildings up there, like in the Empire State Building, and talk to some construction worker from New York? No. She goes to some place out in the country in, Portugal, and talks to a 8-year-old girl who hasn't seen a meal in a week. They always go to these poor places Because why? Nobody, they can be manipulated. The stories are made up. All these Mother Mary stories are made up. When she comes and sits on the top of the Empire State Building and talks to a construction worker from New York, then I'll believe it. But anyway, this prophecy was given by a 90-year-old woman, supposedly, in Norway. Let me see how much time I got here. 10 minutes. 42 some years ago. About events leading up to the second coming of Christ. Yes. Now, an evangelist by the name of Emmanuel Minus wrote this prophecy down in 1968 and thought it was so extreme that he put it away. He recently reviewed the prophecy and was amazed by what he wrote down. All right. So he writes this down. And why did he wait so long? Why didn't he say this in 1962 or whatever? Because I think it's made up. All right. So he recently reviewed this. Very extreme, but the norm in our society today. And an old woman of 90 from Valdres in Norway had a vision from God in 1968. The evangelist, this Emmanuel, had meetings with her. Now, how come, out of all these billions of people, how come God didn't choose me to have a vision? Did you ever think about that? Why didn't he choose you, one of the listeners on my show today? He chooses some people it's always somebody in the past, and you can't prove it. I want to see some proof. And I'm not going on blind faith when somebody says they talk to God. Okay? Sorry. Just ain't happening. Now, she had this prophecy where she lived. He had the opportunity to meet her, and she told him what she had seen. Okay, was it an illusion, a delusion? He wrote it down, but thought it to be so unintelligible that he put it in a drawer. Huh? Sure he did. He just decided it's so unintelligible, but now it's intelligible. Now, almost 30 years later, he understands he has to share the vision with others. Now, what's the possibilities of that being true? I'd say 1 in 100 million, but people are going to believe it. Not this person. The woman from Valdres was a very alert, reliable, awake, and credible Christian. Well, first of all, he's contradicting himself right here. He just said that it was unintelligible. But now she's alert, reliable, awake, and a credible Christian. How did he know that? Didn't he know that back then? If he knew that back then, he wouldn't have put that in a drawer. He'd have said it right then and there. If that was said in 1962, not 40 years later, whenever, I'd believe it. But it wasn't. And we're going to move on here. And this is why what we call fake news is rampant. I don't care where you go. The alternative media, I don't care if you go to Fox News, if you go to CNN, it's all distorted in a different way. So just turn on and listen to some music or something and you'll be better off. Okay, so we got this woman. And she says, I saw the time just before the coming of Jesus and the outbreak of the Third World War. I saw the events with my natural eyes. Okay. I saw the world like a kind of a globe, and I saw Europe. There's the reason I don't believe this is because if she really did see God or Jesus or the earth, it wouldn't be a globe. Would it? No. So this is made up. But we're going to read it anyway because, I was thinking about this. How many made up things have I read over the years doing this show? I can't imagine how many. In fact, I'm going to just digress here 1 minute and come back to this fake prophecy. Stories now are going around about Leo Wanta. Okay. He's got trillions of dollars. And, Tom Hennigan and all these guys are bringing back Leo Wanta. Now, years ago, I believe Leo Wanta for a while. I did many shows with him. Many shows with some other people. And guess what I found out? And that was all BS. And when I found out it was all BS, Guess what I was getting? I get calls from some Jesuit seminary somewhere in Colorado. Was trying to bug my telephone or something. So, that's what I'm talking about. There's not much you can believe about anything. Okay, so she saw this. It's kind of a globe. Well, there, I know she's off of a rocker. I saw certain things that would take place, I don't think she even wrote it, before the return of Jesus. And just before the last calamity happens. I'm going to tell people one thing. He's not coming back in your lifetime. Okay? It's not coming back in my lifetime. Now, I can say that because I don't know how long I'm going to live. I could die tomorrow. And I will say this. There's a 100 million chance to 1. He's coming back before I die tomorrow. And I will bet, if I live to the ripe old age of 100, he's not coming back. Now, people are going to say, Greg, do you believe that he's coming back? I don't know. Would I be stupid enough to believe that? Now, you're going to say, well, there's many Christians that believe it. Are they stupid? No, they're not. Because they're them and I'm me. I would be stupid to believe it. Because that's the way I'm made. Now, you might not be stupid to believe he's coming back, but that's okay. Because that's you. And so can't we all have our beliefs without going crazy? Now, if he did come back, how's it going to change my life? All right. Is he going to damn me to hell forever? What? I'm not worried about it. I really am not. I'm not really, that's me. So I think people get hung up. Now, I'm going to make an assumption here, and this assumption may get me in trouble. But, why not? I think a lot of people have faith because they want to cover their ass and make sure that in case there is a God or a Jesus, they're going to go somewhere nice after they die. All right? Now, I could get in trouble, but deep down in your heart, ask yourself if you ever thought that. And then ask yourself, if you did and you changed your mind and now you have faith, where did it come from? Was it from reading and reading and reading the Bible, or was it from something else that was not even there? Now, I think in my life, I've met maybe 1 or 2 people that had this blind faith from the time they were like 6 years old. And they stayed the same, believing in this Christian lifestyle. Now, unfortunately, they weren't born in a place that was a Buddhist country. They were born and brought up in this country. So the chances of them having that belief system ingrained in them are much bigger. So I haven't met too many people. I've met a lot of people that go around the horn, so to speak. They're born Protestant, they turn atheist, then they go into an Eastern religion, then they come out of that, then they get hooked on drugs, and then they finally find Jesus or something like that. Or they just give up and say, the hell with it, I'm just going to enjoy my life, and if there's nothing afterwards, so be it. I can't do anything about it anyway. So there. Now, we got about a minute and a half. Now that I've ticked off half of the world, or half of the people in America, I have not ticked off the atheists. They're probably going, ooh, I like him. He's a good guy, see? But I don't really even believe in them either. I'm telling you, they don't know. They're just saying, I know for a fact there's nothing. Well, I can't make that statement. You can. All I'm saying is what I'm saying. I cannot believe in anything like this because that's me. Okay. Now I know there's people out there, their goal is going to be to change you. God, I got to listen. I listen to him, but somehow if he could talk to me only, I would make him into what I want him to be. I know that's what people are thinking. And then some people are going to go, I ain't listening to him anymore. He's nuts. This show, why is he even coming back this year? Well, that's okay. Because we're here to sort out one thing. The Vatican-led New World Order. The root cause of most everything that's in your life, and you don't know it. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app. for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, we're back on the Investigative Journal on this January 3rd, second half of the show. And now that I've ticked off half the Christian population in the world, why don't we move on? But let me tell you this. I wasn't trying to do that. It's just human nature. People like to only listen, most of the time, to people that believe just what they believe. And that sounds great. Everybody loves that. They do not want to have an open discussion about even the craziness that goes on the internet anymore. It's like, I know better than you, and I'm going to look myself. Well, go ahead, because I'm telling you, over the past 10 years, there is about 100 million percentage points higher garbage on the internet than I remember it when it first came out. And it's getting crazy. Now, I'm not saying you can't find stuff, but by the time you do, you're so worn out that you go, heck, I'm just going to go and take a walk on the ocean, by the ocean. Forget about it. But I wasn't meaning to tick off a lot of people. It's just the way human nature is. Everybody has the right to their own opinion, especially if you're born in America. That's exactly what the Constitution said. We have the right to freedom of speech, and we can do that without yelling, fire in a theater, or all the limitations on freedom of speech. So we'll leave it at that. I did want to mention something really important. Okay, every one of you has a cell phone attached to your arm, okay? You can't get rid of it. It's like there. Even when it's not there, you pick up your hand like you have it, So I want to know if this was true. The other day it got really cold, and my cell phone didn't start in the morning. Okay, and I was like lost. I'm going, oh my God, I can't get through the day. This thing's not working. What's wrong? I got to buy a new one now? I went through craziness for an hour. Oh, no, it's going to cost me $200. I got to change everything on the phone. Oh, this is terrible. Life as a modern man is so disgusting, isn't it? The things I have to put up with, you know? Man, can you imagine if you lived like 500 years ago and that's what all you had to complain about? Imagine back then. They didn't have running water. They didn't have any of the stuff we have, and they didn't complain half as much as we do. But we complain about a cell phone. And for those couple hours that the phone didn't work, I thought my life had ended. I thought it was it. There was no more reason to live. Plus, it's going to cost me money that I don't have. Now, what's causing this phone not to work? I know what it is. Okay, the brand is from China, and you can't change the battery. Oh, those crooks. I've only had this phone a year. Now I got to buy another one? My God, I can't live any longer. Nope, I'm done. Just kill me right now. I can't go on. So anyway, I'm thinking, well, let me plug it in. It didn't work. And it was cold, relatively cold for what I'm used to living in a warm climate. And my phone has been used to a warm climate. So the next thing pops into my head, maybe the battery froze. Maybe it's the cold and it doesn't want to work. So I put my good trusting phone next to my heart in my leather jacket, and I just pretended it was like a little baby. And I said, "Get warm, little phone. Please get warm, so I can use you and just be happy again, because I can't live without you anymore." So anyway, it gets warmer, days go on, days moving, sun comes out, and I press that button, and it didn't work. I said, "Oh God, it's warm now." Then guess what happens? I said, "I'm going to press the button to start the phone and hold it there." And all of a sudden, I heard a little click, like a heartbeat. I said, "He's alive. My phone is alive." And the heart, I heard it beep. The heart is moving. Then the little lights went on. And pretty soon, I was back into the world. It was living again. My phone was actually alive. It had a near-death experience. Oh my goodness. Would it tell me what it was like to be almost dead? Or be dead? My phone had a near-death experience. It was out for a good 2 hours. I said, well, a person can only last 4 minutes usually without oxygen. I hope my phone's okay. So I checked everything in its little brain, all of its little applications. I checked everything, and guess what? The phone was normal. So then I said, if it did have a near-death experience, why don't I go to Google? And I did this. Okay, phone, you had a near-death experience. What is a near-death experience for you? And there it gave me an answer. And it said, have you ever had a near-death experience? I said, no. And that has changed you. Oh, really? How does it change you, phone? So it went on and on and on, but I could not find out why my phone, what happened to it after it died. Then I figured, maybe he saw Christ. Maybe he saw heaven. And he can tell me. Because surely there's not been one human being that's ever told me anything like that. Or there's not been one human being that's ever come back and told me the truth, or anybody the truth, about what lies in the beyond. So I figured I had a better chance with my phone than I did with a human being. But just like a human being, it didn't even give me a truthful answer about its near-death experience. I couldn't tell whether the phone was hallucinating, whether it was telling me the truth or what. But all I know now is my phone is alive. It's with me again, right in my hand. And my question to you is, what caused my phone to die? Was it the cold that froze the battery? That took away life from my phone? Someone give me that answer, please. Okay. enough for the near-death experience of my telephone. Now, let's go on to another crazy story. A prophecy from a 90-year-old woman. How many people are going to believe this? This guy supposedly wrote it down, then he kept it in his drawer for 30 years because he thought it was unintelligible. Now he says, no, it's not unintelligible. She's a very, very devout Christian, and she's so smart. So let me tell you what's going to happen. So I'm going to read a little of this because it doesn't tell you anything, really, that you don't see going on today. World chaos, World War III. The whole world's going to go to hell in a handbasket. There's going to be a power outage. There's going to be tsunamis. There's going to be whatever. You're not going to make it through 2019. That's what you're going to read. And here's what the calamity that she talks about says. She's never experienced this before, but she saw it. Okay, come on. First, before Jesus comes, she said, and before the Third World War breaks out, there will be a détente like we have never had before. There will be peace between the superpowers in the East and the West, and there will be a long peace. Well, when is that going to be? Remember, he says, this was in 1968, when the Cold War was at its height. Look, America has been at war all but 7 years of its existence. So there's no détente, no peace. The leaders of these big countries may say there is, but there's not. There isn't. They just tell you that. So right there, I don't believe this is true. Now, let's move on. Oh, by the way, the latest in Washington is that they want to get out of Iran, or they want to get out of Syria. We've been in Afghanistan, and they want to get rid of the troops in Afghanistan. The only reason they're in Afghanistan is to protect the poppy fields. They're never going to leave. They may say they're going to leave, but it goes on and on. In this period of peace, there will be disarmament in many countries, also in Norway, and we are not prepared when the war comes. The Third World War will begin in a way no one would have anticipated, and from an unexpected place. Now, you know what? I'm going to write down a prophecy. Who better to do that than me? I've been listening to this garbage for 15 years. Who knows how there's nobody that knows better how the world's going to end than me. That's all I read about, because I had to, because I'm supposedly an alternative journalist and got fed up with the mainstream. Well, hell, now I'm fed up with the alternative. So where should I go? Well, one other person called my show The Alternative to the Alternative. I'm going to add an alternative this year. The alternative to the alternative to the alternative. But the point is, why can't I write a prophecy? Then I'm going to put it somewhere, and I'm going to let some guy come and get it and say, oh my God, did you read what he wrote? It's unintelligible. I think I'll put it away. And then 40 years later, you can read it and say, listen to what he said. I could tell you some really good things that are going to happen. Okay. And would people believe it? Yes. Okay. She says, too, a lukewarmness without parallel will take hold of all Christians, a falling away from true living Christianity. Okay. Here's my gripe. The whole world's not Christian. So she's talking from a small point of view. All right, there's a lot of Christians. Now, there's a lot of Catholics out there, but they're not Christians either. So she needs to be more specific. Christians will not be open for penetrating preaching. Well, they will not, like in earlier times, want to hear of sin and grace, law and gospel. Let's go over this. I'm not a, I guess what you would call a good Christian or a bad Christian or whatever, but let's say I'm just me. I always talk about sin. I talk about grace. I talk about law. I listen to gospels. I know what repentance is. I know what restoration is. And I'm not even, as good a Christian as probably 99% of the people listening to this show. So what's she talking about? it's like, okay, everybody's falling into Satan's den. All right? Okay, fine. There will be a substitute. Prosperity, happiness. No, you don't want to be happy or prosperous, do you? No, that's a sin to be happy and prosperous. You want to suffer. Sounds like a Catholic way of thinking. The important thing will be to have success. What's wrong with success, I say? To be something. I want to be something. Okay, would you rather be successful or non-successful? Would you rather be something or nothing? To have material things or nothing? What do you want? You got to have something. You want, okay, what this person's, you don't want to be successful. You don't want to have something. You don't want to be something. You want to be nothing. You don't want any material things. Okay, so now here's what I should be according to this prophecy. I should be very unsuccessful. I should not want to be anything. I should just leave this show right now and say, I don't want to be anything. Don't bother me. Then I should say, I don't want any material things. Nothing. Get rid of my car. I don't want even the clothes on my back. Shoes, I don't need them. Nothing. That's what she's saying. Things that God never promised. Oh, really? What did he promise? Tell me what he promised. That's what I want to know. He never promised anything to me. I came into this world, and I don't remember God promising anything. And maybe I've read some things, but here's something. Church and prayer houses will be empty and emptier. Good. You know, according to many, Christians that I talk to, they can worship from their house. You don't need to go to a church. So what's this old lady talking about? I don't think there was one. I think the guy made it up. Now, instead of preaching, we have been used to for generations to take your cross up and follow Jesus. I don't have a cross. And, this whole thing about taking your cross and following Jesus, to me, I never understood it, never will. Now, that's me. I'm not taking the cross up and walking, or bearing any suffering. I heard he did all that for me. That's what I heard. So, can I just not take the cross up? Do I have to follow somebody all the time in my life? Can't I just be me? Entertainment, art, and culture will invade the churches, where there should have been gatherings for repentance and revival. Well, I don't care what they do in those places. Most times now you go into these and they have like a band. It's okay. There will be moral disintegration that old Norway has never experienced. People will live together like married without being married. And, this whole thing goes on and on and on. How much time do I have? Things that anybody could write. And, yeah, we can get into the moral degradation of the world right now. And we can look at Hollywood. We can do all that. But, people are people. And you're going to have that no matter what. And you had it all the time. Rome, way back when, what was that like? So people act like this is something new. It's not. And if you want to change it, change yourself. That's all you can do. That's my advice for the day. But enough with this prophecy. This is what I'm talking about. This is the things we got to put up with all year, right? Then I read that article about super shock or future shock, and that was for 2018. It didn't happen. So is it going to happen now? No. It's going to be a very normal year. I'm going to be prosperous, successful. I'm going to get a lot of material things, and I say, screw everybody. Who cares? What's wrong with that? People are like, at least they're being honest, But anyway, what are you going to do? Be unsuccessful, not prosperous, and you're going to get rid of all your material things. If you do get rid of all your material things, email me, and I'll take them off your hands. GregBeacon@gmail.com. Any material things you don't want, give them to me. I'll take them off your hands. I could use a few. Okay. So, let's talk about a subject very dear to my heart, the news business, and what's happened to it over the years. Now, no one can talk better than I about this business because I've been in it a long time. And I remember as a young kid, I believed in all these things of truth, justice, get the story out, look for the truth behind it. But, when you don't know, you grow up in a world that's fake. We're using the word fake news today, last time on this show. Then you really have no grounding for what you're up against when you realize what the world's really like. And the question is, even if you realize it, what's the difference? What are you going to do about it? I've always said that from the first time I ever did this show. I said it's more important to realize that you're either going to do something or not do, or understand you can't do anything, but yet understand why you need to know this. That's all. Now, the mainstream news now, we're going to use that term. When I started in the news business, there was no such thing. Everything was mainstream because there was no non-mainstream. There was no internet. Okay? Now, Donald Trump has done one thing. He's every day, all you got to do is turn on Fox News or CNN, and you're going to hear the word fake news. He came up with it. I'm sure somebody wrote it for him, like somebody from Georgetown. And basically the idea is that he is saying that he's getting a rough shake because everything they write about him is not true. But here's the real deal. It's all not true. Now, if you look at Fox, let's start there. Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson probably are the two main guys there. Now that Bill O'Reilly's gone, and they're fake. Now, why do I say that? Because they've hidden crimes of the Federal Reserve, the Bush family, the Vatican, chemtrails, GMO poisons, vaccine scams, and that's just the beginning. So you're not getting the truth from them. Now, what about people that supposedly tell you the truth about the Federal Reserve? Let's start there. You're going to find that they've also infiltrated that group so that they can say, yes, the Fed is this way, but they're going to take you down a path that's going to get you nowhere. They do it with the Bush family, the Clinton family. They'll do it with chemtrails. Every one of these truth movements has been infiltrated to take you down another road so that you never really get anywhere. Now, I've been following chemtrails for God knows since the 90s, and they get worse, and we know more about them. I've been following GMO poisons for 10 or 12 years, and they get worse. It gets to the point there's so much that you just give up. You go, let them kill me. Hell, it's easier than trying to figure out all the things they're doing. What about the vaccine scams? For 15 years I've known about it, had some good friends in this movement that taught me a lot. At least they taught me never to take a vaccine flu shot. And it just gets worse. And by worse, I mean the disinformation, even in those groups. Now, the people I knew were truthful. I knew that for a fact, but they were being barraged by people that wanted to get rid of them and to change their, basically what they do is they get into a truth movement and they lead you down another path where you think you're getting it all, but you're not. And they do that for a reason, because I am convinced that if these groups weren't infiltrated, we'd all end up in the same place, Rome. And we'd all have an understanding of how this really works. But they're not going to let you go there. Sean Hannity's not going to let you go there. Tucker Carlson isn't. And if they did, they'd be fired. Now you say, well, what about CNN? Look, there's no different. They just talk the other side of the story using the Hegelian dialectic. The Democrats versus the Republicans. And all they're going to do is fight back and forth And they may say something, well, we want environmental protection. But they're not going to go any farther than Hannity on the other side goes. And all they're there for is to keep you occupied. So we've just discounted much of what goes on in the mainstream. And it's the good cop, the bad cop, depending on who you believe, on who you side with. And they want to keep you in that position. We haven't even gotten to the alternative media, which is much more interesting, by the way. Not as predictable, much more difficult to figure out, but yet I can say this, that Alex Jones is also fake, okay, along with Hannity and Carlson. He does it from the alternative side, and you can just look at the amount of viewers, how he started out, and check it out. I was there in the beginnings almost, when he first started. So I know a little bit more than you do about it, maybe. And I'm telling you this, he'll take you down a path. He's never going to get to where what I say is important. And the only important thing is to get to the bottom of this. And I'm just upset that no one really discusses Rome and the Vatican like we do here. And when I say nobody, I'm talking about the people I just mentioned. And they do it for a reason, because they do not want that Pandora's box open. And the reason is once you understand how they operate, they can't operate. It sounds simple. Well, we've got a whole year to figure it out again, and I'm sure we won't. But back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.